and the man who has an actual video from his Ring camera due to last week, what we talked about with drumsticks sent from Drew.
Yes.
Dave the Save Warner, how are you?
Great. Although now I have my video to compare to your video.
Nothing compares to that.
That's
Dave.
true.
Nothing.
That's true. It does.
So
people who watch the show will know.
Yeah, right.
We'll keep running it. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll keep running it.
Yeah. So last week, in case you missed it, Drew sent Dave some drumsticks, the ice cream cones, and he was a little surprised by it. And Dave, this was one of those cameras on his door. Well, he happened to have recorded the whole transaction, which was actually kind of funny.
Oh, so you want me to run that now?
So go ahead and run that. Let's get that done now.
There we go.
Hi, your ice cream you ordered?
I didn't.
This is 590 Garden, ain't it?
Yes.
Well, somebody ordered the ice cream.
Okay.
I don't know who it.
I don't know. All right, thank you. I'll put it in the freezer.
It's 590 Garden Street. Oh,
yeah.
Your kitty's coming out. Well, somebody sent you ice cream.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
So
we had to send 2 boxes because I wasn't sure if there was like a nut allergy, and the original ones have nuts on the outside. So like if you didn't have those, so we sent 2 boxes.
I did. I wondered why, and the scene was my wife was just throwing stuff out of the freezer, trying to fit those 2 big boxes of ice cream in there. Because I swore they belonged to somebody else, and so it was like, okay, I got to find a spot for these because she's coming back to get these and take them where they belong. It was nuts.
Well, you know what I want to know? Did you recover the cat?
Yeah, I did. I stopped her. She's not an outside kid.
Of course, Dave the Saves makes the save on the cat.
I made the save. You saw how quick I moved, right?
Exactly. And our other co-host, the man who sent the drumsticks himself, Mr. Drew Bray. What's happening, Drew?
What's up, guys? It's good to see you. It's good to see you.
Absolutely. Let's do this.
Yeah,
let's do this.
Sure.
I want to bring our guest in. Our guest is from basically the hottest hockey website there is, growing leaps and bounds every day. He's the editor. He's a contributor. He is pretty much everything. He is Mr. Connor Green of InsideTheRink.com. Connor, how are you?
Hey, Scott. Long time no see. Been a few months since I've been on here last. Lots of things have happened since then, but I am glad to be back. You guys have the hottest show in town.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate that. And yeah, I did fail to mention that. I mean, you've been on the show before, and of course, you're a big Bruins fan, actually. So this ought to be a real interesting dynamic with you and Drew. So
it's been a bad week for me.
I mean, we can bond in our mutual hate of the Penguins. Am I right?
Well, typically I would say yes, but I actually have the second most NHL paraphernalia goes to the Pittsburgh Penguins for me.
Wow.
Yep.
Nice.
That's too bad.
Well, if you want to indulge, it's actually kind of a cool story. I'll keep it short and sweet. When I was a senior in high school, I went on a class trip with like 6 other people. We went to France, did a whole tour for about 10 days, and we did it with other classes from different states. Well, there was a group from Butler, Pennsylvania, who I became very good friends with. Yep. And one of the gals in that group was a diehard Pittsburgh Penguins fan, and we clicked with the hockey, and we became really good friends, kind of pen pals almost. And I managed to have a 24/7 copy of the DVD before it was released because my aunt was a journalist and had gotten it for me. So I had sent it to her because I had no use for it. Right. And she sent me about 3 or 4 different Penguins t-shirts in my size in exchange. And I still have them to this day.
So is that the 24/7 that was on HBO?
Yes.
That led up to the Winter Classic where the Caps came and played at Pittsburgh. I was at that Winter Classic game. And interestingly enough, I actually drank at the bar at the hotel with the crew that shot 24/7. That's
awesome.
It was amazing. And those guys were great. That was, it's a shame that the NHL doesn't do it anymore, right? Like, it's just not like all these winter games and stadium series, they're just not like promoting it like they were. Those were amazing. I mean, that level of behind the scenes stuff with, it was so
It's like
good.
what they did on Amazon with the Maple Leafs.
Right.
Yep. Oh yeah, that was fantastic. I loved watching that.
I wish they'd do more of that.
I'm not a Leafs fan, but it was a great watch for sure.
Yeah.
Without getting too far into that, I do wonder though if maybe the luster's starting to wear off on the outdoor games a little bit because they're starting to go back to the same venues over and over again.
Yeah, I think so. Like,
and it's cool, but it's like, we've seen this, right? And in a constant entertainment world that everything's changing and all that, sometimes you got to switch things up a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely gets weird. I mean, I feel really fortunate that, I'm in Annapolis, Maryland, and they had one at the Naval Academy. It was awesome. It was just like right down the street, really short hop. But now the Caps are playing the Canes next year in a Stadium Series game, like at NC State. So it's going to be like, I don't even know if I'm like that committed to going. It's not that far.
Yeah, it's definitely strange, but what do you do though? Because you run into the trap of, like Connor, not to pick on the Bruins, but say you got the Bruins playing at Fenway or at Foxborough over here, or Gillette Stadium. Sorry, I'm old school. I still think it was Foxborough Stadium. Like the same thing with the Blackhawks, right? I mean, they're going to play at one of the Chicago stadiums, be it Soldier Field, Wrigley Field, wherever. And after a while, it kind of gets stale, and you have to change things up a little bit.
But I think that Connor kind of hit it on the head when we were talking about like, you have to have some kind of exciting story about it. Like those years when that 24/7 happened between the Caps and the Pens, that was a giant rivalry. The Caps hadn't broken through yet. It was like the Pens just always pounded us down. And then like that made for a great storyline, like from a journalistic standpoint, right? Like as regular hockey fans, like, we're not impressed, but like give us something amazing that surrounds it and gives it some hype. I think, obviously you have Fenway is just an amazing venue. So it's like,
right.
That makes sense. It's a little smaller football, the football stadiums are so much larger, so many more people, but I think that they could still make a go of it. I love that one in Tahoe during COVID. That was amazing.
Oh yeah.
Except they had to be at night.
Obviously you can't, but you can't, no fans, which is not great for revenue for the league. Right. But it was beautiful to watch. I mean, it was a really good watch.
I always thought they should do one in Alaska, kind of like Mystery Alaska. I thought that'd be the coolest thing.
Out in the middle of the tundra.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Just ticky tacky.
Yeah.
Like, let's just go.
I want to adopt those kids.
Exactly.
But anyways, Connor, tell us a little bit about Inside the Rink, because I think we got a screen we can share to show anybody who's watching on YouTube can check the site out. And by the way, I'm actually happy to say I'm going to be writing for Inside the Rink. We'll be covering the NHL, the LA Kings, and so along with Marty's Illegal Stick stuff, we're going to be seeing much more of me at InsideTheRink.com. So go ahead and tell us all about it, Connor.
So as you, Scott, may know, and maybe some of the people that follow you, I used to be a co-host of the Puck Lines podcast based out of Boston. And shortly after doing that for about a few months, decided to step away and really kind of take inventory of what I wanted out of this industry and this business. And together with a friend, we decided to go ahead and start the Inside the Rink website. And originally it was just about 3 or 4 of us from October of 2021. And up until now, we've grown up to a team of about 50 people, 50 writers or podcasters, contributors. And really our focus behind this initiative is we've been around, we've seen what other companies do to their talent and their content creators and how they're treated. And we're completely the opposite. We are the content creators still, even though we're running the business. And we want to make it our mission to treat our content creators better than anybody else and cover the game in a completely different and more unique way. So, for example, the way we came up with Inside the Rink, we are eventually going to have a flagship podcast that will make it all make sense. We will be doing interviews with people who are inside the rink. the front office people, people who are in ticket sales, bowl gang members, people that make an NHL organization run that you never hear about, and bring that to the forefront of some of the hockey news.
That's really awesome because, it's always fun to be able to interview a player or a coach, but sometimes you kind of start to hear like the same thing over and over because, I mean, it's from their point of view. Well, what you're saying, and it's brilliant, and I totally agree, that you don't always hear from, say, the trainer. You don't always hear from somebody in the front office or somebody who's handling marketing because it's a whole different facet of the game that not a lot of people get to hear about or see. So that's really great, man. So when about you think you're going to be getting that going?
Hopefully sometime during next season. That's the goal.
Nice.
We've got a lot of projects going on right now as we're still adding and creating to the website. We've recently added a cap space section where we have a content creator who puts out some pretty awesome graphics for, the upcoming off season or upcoming season for each team and how much cap they have, where everybody slots in on the depth chart, etc. And we actually have a huge project that we're overtaking this summer for hockey analytics. And actually, this is probably the first time that any of us will have talked about it on a live show. So you guys get the scoop.
Awesome. We get the exclusive.
But we have a hockey analytics guru who joined the squad, and he is compiling a glossary of hockey analytics terms. And we will have a page on every single term defining it, how it's calculated, how it's used, and examples for every single statistic you could find for hockey analytics. And then we will have an entire hockey analytics hub with live statistics and scores from the entire league attached to it.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's amazing because, I think that analytics is something that people who've been around the game for a really long time, they're, very much like, I'm not into analytics, but I think that that's a great idea because I think that it makes analytics more accessible to a new fan. And I think that's super important. Like, I'm kind of in the middle on it. Like, I understand like the emotional and the compete level, like how do you calculate that? But I'm also in on analytics. Like, I think it's important. And I think that there are a lot of people that are doing it, but I think that there's a lot of people who don't understand it. And I think that's going to be great. Like,
that's where I was, to be honest, when I stumbled across this guy and, gave him my vision of what I, could foresee here. A lot of it was because a lot of it I don't even understand still. It's still, gibberish to me, except for the basic analytics that are used. But the whole goal that I'm trying to bring inside the rink to and kind of make it a place that every hockey fan wants is when I go and I look and consume my hockey content, I have a website for data. I have a website for, cap friendly, and then I have a news website. Well, I want it all in one. That's what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think that's a more than reasonable goal. I think it's that's amazing. I mean, I'm certainly gonna I'll put this out on my social media feeds. I don't have a ton of followers, but I'm definitely digging it. I think it's really
hey man, I appreciate it. Every little bit helps. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
No, and it's great too because I think you hit the nail right on the head too. Whereas analytics, it can be very complicated, especially like guys like Drew and I were late 40s, early 50s. We grew up where the biggest analytic was plus minus.
Yeah, that was it. I mean,
that was the extent of it.
I mean, okay, I'll give my Caps fandom once again. Jeff Schultz was a Caps defenseman who led the league in plus minus, and he was garbage. He was terrible. And I'm like, how is this guy leading the league in plus minus? Because that statistic means nothing. Like, it just happens to be. I mean, from beer league, Scott, you hop over the boards and your team scores, and you're like, hey, I'm +1.
Yeah, exactly. The highlight of the night.
That's an easy one.
Exactly. Yeah, it really just doesn't hold water, And it's kind of a bummer, but like I said, I really enjoy I enjoy reading the advanced statistics, and I think that there's so many fans that don't understand them. So having a page that specifically spells out what this really means, right? These guys are on ice. This is how many chances they get when they're on the ice. This is how many chances against that happen. Like, I think that spelling those things out for even, I want to say, I don't want to say just new fans, because it's not, because the statistics are so new that I think even old fans really will benefit by understanding what these analytics go to. And, you know, the announcers, they come down very hardcore on one side or the other, always, right? And I think that just laying it out so that you can make an informed decision if you think that that's what it is. I think that congratulations, Connor. That's going to be a great site. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to read it and take in that content. And it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome.
It is. It is really, really an awesome site, and I highly recommend that to anybody who's at any level of a hockey fan too. Whether you're just a casual hockey fan, or if you're just, you know, eat, breathe, sleep hockey like most of us do.
Yeah, because Connor's right. Like I'm the same way. Like I'm like compiling a bunch of Twitter feeds to get all that stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I want all the analytics. I want the news. I want all that stuff. And what am I doing? I'm just making Twitter group so I can find it on 50 different websites instead of just one. It's awesome.
Oh man, yeah, exactly. So absolutely great for you. And you guys have an app too, don't you?
Yes, we do. We are on the Apple Store and any Android App Store, Play Store, whatever that's called. Apple
Beautiful.
user. Sorry.
Yeah, no, believe me.
Google Play Store.
Yeah.
Google
Listen,
Play Store.
don't feel bad, because Dave gets aggravated with me because, like I said, the extent of my computer knowledge is about a Commodore 64. So don't feel bad. It's okay.
Yep.
So, you know, we still got some hockey going on, and well, none of our teams are still in it. So I guess we can take an unflinching, unbiased look at the series, I guess. Let's talk about the Eastern Conference first, since that's going to be starting back up at 8:00 tonight. The Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Rangers. So, of course, everybody knows the Rangers were dominant at home, winning those two games. Quite frankly, surprised me. I was expecting maybe a game one, say a rusty game from Tampa Bay, given they were off for so long. I really thought they would look better in game two. They didn't, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, the score was 3-2. That certainly didn't reflect the game at all. And so Sunday afternoon, Amalie Arena in Tampa Bay was the site for game three, where honestly, Tampa Bay had their backs to the wall and they did pull off the win, but they didn't really dominate the Rangers at all. So here we are going into game four, and now reports are saying that Ryan Strome is returning to the Rangers lineup. Guys, what do you see going into game four tonight? Is Tampa Bay going to tie this series up before we go back to MSG, or are the Rangers going to put a stranglehold on this one?
Well, I'm sticking with the guns, and I would have bet this when they were down 2-0. We've said it before, even on this podcast, is if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. Right? And I just don't think that I just don't. I mean, Shesterkin's definitely keeping them in it, right? He is playing as well or better than Vasilevsky, which is amazing. That is in and of itself an amazing accomplishment. But let's look at that game. So from Sunday, right? So the Rangers go up 2-0, right? They're in cruise control. Like, it's the playoffs. I'm not giving up 3 unanswered. But then you look at the way that it happened, and it's funny that you bring up the Strome situation. And I've been reading that they say he's coming back, but we all know that was a groin injury. Like, you saw it. Like, the way that he went down and held his thing, and that is a nagging industry. If Strome does come back, he's going to be a very different player. You know, we can talk about Burrow, too, blocking the shot and taking a bad puck. I would say that's your difference between hurt and injured, right? I think Strome is injured. And I think even if he does come back and play, he's not going to be the same player. But the way Tampa has also figured out how to beat, well, not Tampa, some of their players have figured out to beat how to beat Shesterkin, right? Kucherov takes that puck with 45 seconds left or whatever it was, high slot, he is in a prime scoring position. Shesterkin pushes out, is very aggressive, which is what is keeping him going. Like, that's why he's such a good goaltender, is because he's aggressive. And Kucherov has the veteran playoff sense to donk it off to Andre Palat, who just beats him short side. And Shesterkin was moving in that direction. He just couldn't get to the post. You know, I mean, Palat makes a great shot, receives the thing, but I think that kind of playoff experience that you saw from Kucherov right there, I mean, I think that's going to be the difference in this series. I mean, I think the Rangers are out kicking the coverage and they're playing great, but I still think Tampa does it and we'll put them away. I think again, great to watch, but I just think I just don't think the Rangers have in the tank what it takes to knock off the champs. And it's really tough.
How about you, Connor?
Well, you talk about wanting to be the man, you got to be the man. Well, Shesterkin is the man now.
Yep.
He is outplaying Andre Vasilevsky, which nobody really anticipated. Rangers fans obviously hoped for. The sticking point for me, because the Rangers have the advantage right now, is you need to play 2 shutdown periods of hockey, and then Kucherov is going to let you win this series. I've already seen it in the first 3 games. His frustration was showing. He's given the slashes after the whistle, the extra barking, and everybody knows where that heads. So if the Rangers can come out tonight and play 2 solid periods and pot a couple goals when they have the opportunities, Kucherov is going to get frustrated and he's going to take a stupid penalty, and he's going to make or break this series for the Lightning, especially without Braden Point. Now, as far as Ryan Strome goes, sounds like he's healthy. It also sounds like Sammy Blais is getting healthy and about to make a return. And if Strome is injured, the only thing I have to combat he might be too injured to be worth it, Leon Draisaitl. He was hurt for the entire playoffs, and he was an absolute animal. He just had to find it. He had to find his way and how to be successful despite the injury. He did that, and he did it well. I think Strome can do the same thing. They have enough depth in that Rangers lineup where he doesn't have to play up the middle if he can't do it, which if it's a groin, being a center, it's probably going to affect him quite a bit. I think they have the ability to overcome that type of injury.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you put me on a line with Connor McDavid, I could probably do at least 15. I might not do 30 points in the playoffs like both of those guys did, and that's pretty amazing. But yeah, I mean, those groin injuries, man, it is just difficult to kick. And I don't know what the science is between like freezing it or giving them shots or painkillers. It's really, really tough. And I felt that in that game, that was the turning point, was that halfway through the 3rd period when Strome went off, that Tampa Bay turned it on. And I'll tell you who I think is the difference maker for Tampa Bay is Alex Killorn. He skated exactly by Trouba, like Trouba was standing in mud at one point in the 3rd. And I mean, he didn't score, but I was like, whoa, where did this guy come from? And that's just the depth. That just speaks to the depth that the Lightning have and the experience. But Scott made a point last week that they've also played a lot of hockey in the last 2.5 years. A lot. And so, going deep, it's tough. And it's still maybe a toss-up, but man.
That was, I'm glad you brought that up because I just want to go back to the goaltending real quick. Number one, it was kind of funny to see Igor Shesterkin beat Corey Perry at his own game, because that was the flop of all flops. I mean, that was WWE sell job right there, but he got the penalty, so it is what it is.
All that counts.
Exactly, whatever works, right? But, the Tampa Bay Lightning have played more hockey than any other team over the past 3 seasons. And especially Andre Vasilevsky. I mean, they have just rode this guy into the ground. Most NHL teams are basically a 1A, 1B goaltending situation, whereas the Tampa Bay Lightning are not. And Andre Vasilevsky is going to play, 80, 85% of their games. Yeah. So I wonder, guys, is Andre Vasilevsky perhaps at the point now that he's perhaps a little worn out? Because these goals that he is giving up are not goals that we're used to him giving up, quite frankly.
No, for sure.
There's times where he's a little bit out of position. They seem to have figured out that glove side. Is it possible that maybe the guy is just tired?
Well, 100%. I mean, but and it's bad to like criticize Vasilevsky for the way, like comparing him to Shesterkin, just because they're just different kinds of goaltenders, right? Vasilevsky is a monster, and you're right. He should be tired. I mean, he is a big dude. I mean, drop to your knees that many times in a day and then get back up. Like, that's just a lot of wear and tear. And you're right, Scott. He's been out of position, not been holding the post well, not being aggressive, but also he has way more to lose, right? I just feel that the Rangers are playing on house money. Like, they're just going for it because why not?
Sure.
Right? No one's expecting them to get this far. Like, it's been a great run and continues to be so. And I think that's the one thing that scares me about my prediction is that I really think that it could be close. Like, I don't like it, but I mean, I think Tampa has too much. But I think, Scott, you make a very, very good point about Vasilevsky and just being tired. That's a lot. I mean, and you can't say the same thing about Kucherov. He's taking seasons off.
I know.
Like, I'm going to show up. I'm going to not play. Whatever.
Oh, the playoffs start. I'm better. I'm good.
Right. Yeah. You can't say that. Oh, salary cap? I forget that.
I forget
it. It doesn't matter. But Vasilevsky's a big human. I mean, that's a big dude, and I think you're right. I think if there's a potential weakness for them, I think that it's the number of games that they played over the last 2.5 years. And then you look at Patty Maroon, who had how many other games that he played for the Blues?
I know, right?
It's nuts. It's
impressive.
Nuts. But it's a very interesting situation, and certainly worth paying more attention to. Than I think that a lot of people are not kind of in that niche where they're kind of like, is it been too much? Like, has it not? I mean, but we see it, like, we're just fans, like, watching it, and we see he's been a different goaltender, I think, in this playoffs. And I think that they've relied a lot more on skaters, which doesn't necessarily mean it's the worst thing in the world, because look at who your skaters are.
Right.
But, I mean, you got Victor Hedman, right? But yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. And just comparing the two, it's going to be interesting.
Teams have also had enough time to get the book on Vasi now. He's not. Great point. He's not shocking anybody anymore with what he's doing. He's not surprising people. People have figured him out.
Yeah.
And with good coaching and good players and talented players, you can get through that. Typically, you see it way sooner, but Vasilevsky is one of the best goaltenders in the world. So he's been able to stay at a peak for so long. Typically, a goaltender comes in and is a rookie, and they have 1, 2, or 3 really amazing years, and then it falls right off the cliff because people have that book. They know where to shoot on the goalie. They know where to position themselves because you can't move in that direction quick enough. You've seen it with the likes of Carter Hart, Matt Murray, Jordan Bennington. They've all taken a huge dive in their productivity and their success. It's kind of inevitable with a goaltender.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have guys like Marc-Andre Fleury, who everyone knows that glove high is his weakness, but even his crappy or his weakness is glove high. But go ahead and beat me, right? He wins everywhere. He won in Vegas. He won in Pittsburgh. He won in Chicago.
Well, it kind of helps the talent that he's had around him too, Drew.
Yeah, for sure. but like, I mean, just having the book on a guy, it doesn't necessarily. If that is his weakness, right? He still makes a ton of saves glove high.
Now imagine if Fleury played on a team that was a run and gun style team instead of being a defensive minded team. He would have been Swiss cheese for a lot of seasons.
Yeah,
if he played on a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs, as much as everybody wanted him to go there, he would have been exposed for probably the first time in his career, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Put him on the Panthers, right?
Yep.
Those guys aren't playing defense. Like, it is just north-south all day, and I think so. But he's still a really good goalie, and I hate to say that as a Caps fan, right? It pains me, and I think that Vasilevsky's probably in that same family of like really super talented goaltenders. That yes, you may get the book on him, you may shoot north-south, and maybe the book's not in on Shesterkin yet. Like, it's just not. He's young,
right? That's a great point too.
Right, but there's also the whole thing about like he's just going for it. That's the thing I love about this Rangers team is that they have to. I mean, they're just doing it. You know, they're not pressured. They're not the Capitals like trying to advance past the first round, like with all this pressure around them all the time. They're just going for it. And I love that about that team. And it's been really fun to watch. So I'm excited to watch it again.
They were my dark horse Stanley Cup winner before the season. So I am
really the Rangers.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
I believe in what this Rangers team has, especially when they put Gerard Gallant behind the bench.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, make no
really
doubt.
Gerard Gallant, but he's done a great job.
He's a great coach.
For sure. I don't like him, but yes, you're correct. He's done great for that team with the talent that he's managed, and the way that he's managed to deploy that talent has been amazing.
Yeah,
and
there's no doubt that pretty much everything has gone right for the Rangers. There's no denying that. But I'll tell you what I think the biggest difference in this series, besides the goaltending that everybody's talking about, there's another thing that really nobody's talking about. And the fact that the Rangers are getting secondary scoring, whereas Tampa Bay really isn't. Because when Tampa Bay was making those runs to those 2 straight cups, yeah, of course, they had the star-studded top 6. But a lot of the times, it was their third line that came up with that big goal when they needed it. When they had the Barclay Goodrows, who is now a Ranger, the Blake Colemans of the world, you know, those guys were coming through for them. And now it doesn't seem like I know, like Brandon Hagel really hasn't been what they wanted and given up, 2 first-round picks for him. Or Connor, you may make a great point. And you say Braden Point's been out, so I mean that hurts. That really does.
Yeah.
But every team gets hit with injuries, and you got to overcome them. I mean, there's just no denying that.
Yeah, I mean, but then to that exact point, I mean, look who had the game winner, Palat, 7th rounder, right? 7th
right, but he's also in their top 6.
Yeah, but probably not deservedly so, based on regular season production.
Yeah.
But I mean that's a great play, and I think that one of the things that we talk about a lot with, especially against a really hot goaltender, what do you talk about? You talk about traffic. I don't think Tampa Bay is getting enough traffic in front, and I think that that's the thing that Kucherov recognized by moving the puck from a high scoring area to another high scoring area, but everybody was going to Kuch. I mean, you go to high slot. Less than a minute ago, like everybody's going to him. And I think that that's how you bring in a little bit of that level of secondary scoring is, you want money, you go to the bank. You want bread, you go to the bakery. You want goals, you go to the net. And I think that's going to be Tampa's recipe going forward. I think they're going to be all up in the crease. Like it has to be.
Right? Well, I got to tell you, Drew. I got to tell you, I thought of you Sunday when Stamkos hammered that one-timer where you were talking about how he basically invented the office for Ovi. And I do got to tell you guys something that Dave reminded me after we went off the air last week, that he wanted to say that the Rangers were going to be his pick for the series, but I didn't ask him. So
you didn't really ask any of us.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
No, well, no. If I would have picked Tampa and I would have said in 7.
If they won the first 2 games in MSG, right?
No, I would have said in 7.
Okay.
But yeah. And of course, Colorado, you know. And
well, I got to tell you,
all along.
That's actually a great segue right there. Let's talk about that series since it's over. There's really not much more to talk about.
Yeah.
The Colorado Avalanche, pretty much in dominating fashion, have just last night swept the Edmonton Oilers 4-0. I honestly thought that series was going to go a lot longer. Very exciting series, no doubt about it. But Connor, I want to ask you, was it a matter of the Avalanche being that good or the Oilers being that bad, or maybe a little bit of both?
I think it was definitely the Oilers being that bad. To be honest with you, I am completely anti-Avalanche as far as how good this team is. I don't have anything against the players or coaching, anything like that, but I don't buy into the hype. For me, it's the same thing as the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah, you have some really star-studded players in your lineup, but your goaltending still leaves me with questions. And I can't believe in you when I can't believe in your goaltending. Like, that's what I love about this Eastern Conference final. I truly believe that the Stanley Cup winner is going to come out of that series. It's not going to matter what Colorado just did or has done in the playoffs, because you're going to run into a brick wall. That being said, Leon Draisaitl was a shell of himself. They finally figured out Connor McDavid and how to shut him down from carrying the team on his back. And Mike Smith showed who he was in Arizona. He was the old Mike Smith again. And, I mean, to be honest with you, that's on Holland. He knew that he had a problem in goaltending, and if he could fix that, he had a legitimate chance to go for a cup. They added Evander Kane, who was phenomenal for the team, regardless of how you feel about him off the ice. On the ice, the guy is a performer. And then you did nothing for the goaltending. And I think he needs to be probably not fired, obviously, but at least some bit of held accountable. Like, somebody needs to sit him down and say, look, this is not working. This needs to change.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, I will also take that one step further, actually. You're right. Evander Kane was an absolute beast on the ice. But here's the fact of the matter. The Oilers did not need him. Scoring goals is not their problem. But if you look at it, Darnell Nurse, I think, honestly, got exposed a little bit in this series. He really did. There's no denying that. And then once you get past Nurse, what do you got? Tyson Barrie? He's going to carry your...
Statistically, was one of their best defensemen.
And that's kind of scary.
So far.
He's, 38? So,
but he's been there. He's done that. He's been the man. He knows how to be the man.
You're right. You're absolutely right. But is he going to give you 25 minutes a night anymore when you really need it? Not. That's the problem right there. And you're right. What was Ken Holland thinking? Even going into last season, they knew that that combination of Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen was not going to take them anywhere. They had to know that. How do you not address that in the offseason? When there were actually goalies available, too. There were. Yeah. And they did nothing.
Fleury, even, right? And here's the thing. I think that Edmonton systemically has always struggled with this, right? They were so bad for so long that they would get these incredibly high draft picks. I mean, you look at Taylor Hall, how he's flourished since he's left Edmonton. I mean, obviously, Connor knows because he's a Bees fan, but for whatever reason, it's like you can't just play, I'm going to take the top guys and, I'm going to do vertical crossovers up the ice and put up highlight reel goals every single night. But to win a playoff series, I mean, 2 games over 10 goals in the playoffs, like, that's ridiculous. Like, that is not a way, that is not a recipe to win a Stanley Cup, is to count on that fact. And I think that Edmonton would probably have been better in the Eastern Conference, because you know what a great series would be? Edmonton and Florida. But you know what it wouldn't be? A defensive battle on any level at all. Like, they're just going north-south and doing it. But, Scott, like we talked about, like when I think my first time that I came on the podcast, I had just watched my first Avalanche game of the season, which was against the Caps, that the Caps won like way back in April. And I was like, wow, that team is good. Even though my team won, I was super impressed. Like, obviously, Makar had 5 points last night. Like, that's ridiculous. They are really good. And I think that, you have guys on there that you don't really think about. I mean, obviously, you have McKinnon, but Burakovsky, like, former Capital, like, the kid can play. Like, you're going that deep. And, I mean, he's coming off an injury, but still, that team is so talented. I mean, they've been my pick since before the playoffs. Like, I just thought that they have enough. And I think that no matter who comes out of the East, goaltending or not, I think Colorado just has too much speed, too much firepower.
Well, here's the thing too. Darcy Kemper should be back by the finals. He was actually backing up last night. And Darcy Kemper isn't exactly a household name, but I followed the Western Conference for obviously a long time being a Kings fan. And Darcy Kemper is not an elite goaltender, but he's a good goaltender. And I don't know. Obviously, he's not very playoff experienced either. Having spent a lot of time in Arizona, you don't, unless you consider watching TV, playoff experience. So that's going to be interesting to see how he reacts, obviously making it into the finals. But Colorado's speed can also cover up a lot of mistakes. Yep. And Connor, you said, obviously, Leon Draisaitl was not himself at all. And you're absolutely right. There's no, and anybody who's a casual fan of hockey could watch it and just see it, that he was laboring every time he was on the ice.
Right. But let's just take Draisaitl and say, all right, let's say it's a healthy Draisaitl. Maybe they don't get swept, but they still get beaten.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
But they probably push it to 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, I would have guessed 5 or 6. Yep.
But the one thing we're forgetting now too is, how is Nazem Kadri being out going to affect the Avalanche? Because even though they're probably going to have a pretty long layoff, he left the game the other night with a cast on his hand.
Yeah, they said
cast on a hand.
He's been ruled out for the remainder of the postseason.
That's what I mean. So cast on a hand equals done. Yeah. So that hurts, because I'll tell you, that guy was having a heck of a playoff.
He was having an amazing playoff. And you know what? We were talking about Evander Kane earlier and like what he's done for Edmonton. That was just the dumbest thing. I mean, if anything, he invigorated Colorado to win. And Kane was going at it the entire series, chirping between the benches. And I like that kind of play. I really do. And I think that it's awesome. You're trying to get in people's heads. You're trying to play them out. But then, I mean, you look at it and like, here's the numbers clear as day. It's the same numbers that you have on your jersey. And he was not playing the puck at all. He was just going. And I don't think that he intended to hurt him. But I did think, I mean, you lay the lumber. Like, it's the playoffs. Like, I think that's what he was trying to do. And I think that he was playing a little bit too close to the edge. And I think that that's where he felt his game needed to be. Even though I don't think that he was, like, again, not trying to grab a penalty, not trying to hurt him. But I think he wanted to be like, hey, we're here to play. We're going hard. You're going to get it. Don't go into the corner with me.
And Nazem Kadri should know that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Being who he is,
exactly
that he's done. That hit was almost identical to what he did to Jake DeBrusk, and I believe it was 2013.
Exactly. Great call, Connor. Perfect analogy, because that is exactly who Kadri was when he played for Toronto. I don't think that he's been that player in Colorado, but yeah, it's the identical hit. I mean, it just is. And Kadri's done it a number of times. Some for disciplinary stuff, some for not, but that's the game he plays. And yeah, he probably should have kept his head up. You have to know who's on the ice. I mean, ultimately.
And ideally, that could cost the Avalanche a Stanley Cup. Because now if you look at it, your next center in your depth chart is, I believe, Burakovsky.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Alex Newhook was a rookie.
Now, if you're the Rangers or the Lightning, you can just have one shutdown line, play against the McKinnon line, and load up all your best players to neutralize them out. And then I believe that the Rangers will win the depth battle because of Nazem Kadri not being available.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, I love Burakovsky. He won the cup with the Caps, but he's not this. He's a very different kind of player than Nazem Kadri, right? He grew up, he was playing at Erie, for the Otters with Connor McDavid. He's a slick skating, stick handling, get to the scoring area guy, but he's not going into the corners, man. That's just not his game. Right. And he doesn't like to be in front of the net either, right? That's just not who he is. I mean, it's
not really who the Avalanche are.
No,
you're right.
Not at all.
Exactly.
I mean, Sakic went out and tried to address that by getting, Arturi Lehkonen, who will play more defensively, Josh Manson, who will give you some rough and tough defensive minutes. And everybody else, there's really, they're big bodies as far as Rantanen, McKinnon, Landeskog. Yeah, they're big bodies, but they're not ready for the heavy forechecking game that the Lightning or the Rangers or most of the Eastern Conference teams do. It's like back in the day when Scott was a happy Kings fan in the rough and tough Los Angeles in the Western Conference swapped. And now the Western Conference is more high flying, where the East is finally getting to the rough and tumble.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that with Colorado's case, it's really interesting because I think they have the speed that Florida has, but they also play enough of a physical game. And like Scott said, if Kemper comes back and is able to just be a mediocre backstop, I think that it's going to be I love watching that Colorado team. I just do. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just Makar, because the way that kid skates is just bananas.
What a series he had too.
Game sense, he makes smart plays that I think a lot of even veteran defensemen won't make. Right? Just dumping the puck when you have to dump it, not forcing a play. It's really, really been fun to watch. And I don't know. Again, it's the same thing as the goalie battle, right? If you know that the guy's glove side high weak, he still may be the better glove side high guy than half the league of goaltenders. You know what I mean? So it's I think Colorado plays a different game than Florida. It is speed based. And, Burakovsky fits right into that equation too. But yeah, 2 sweeps in the playoffs, that's bananas, right? 2 sweeps in 3 series.
Yeah, no doubt. But I'll tell you what, who the real winner out of all this is the National Hockey League. Because regardless of who wins the Rangers Tampa Bay series, what a storyline you have going into the Stanley Cup final, right? Colorado, the rising power out of the West. The Rangers are the potential rising power out of the East. Or if Tampa Bay wins, you got to knock off the champs to take the crown. It's
been amazing. And
really 3 exciting teams too. That's the thing.
And I think that TNT and ESPN has done a great job of moving those West Coast games up to 8:00.
Thank goodness.
West Coast time. Yeah. I watched them. You know how many Kings games I saw this year? 0.
You didn't even DVR them. I can't believe it.
Exactly. And I think that moving those games up into a more of a primetime slot has been great for the league. And they've been great games. You don't want to, like I said, you don't want to see a 14-goal game and an 11-goal game, but if you're a casual fan, that's pretty fun to watch.
Which is what they're trying to draw in.
Pretty fun to watch.
Trying to draw.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Pretty cool. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, we're going to take a commercial break. And before I go to that commercial, we're going to do a little breakaway trivia. And it's going to be real simple. And because Connor's here and I know how much of a Bruins fan is, we got a Bruins-based breakaway trivia today.
Oh.
The only thing I want to know is, what year did the Boston Bruins come into the NHL? The answer when we come back.
Visit My Little Falls and stay connected with the latest news, information, and events in the city and the area. Our mission is to generate interest in the community and connect residents in a more meaningful way by facilitating deeper conversations about how these stories will shape the future of the Mohawk Valley. Join thousands of weekly visitors who stay up to date with feature stories, interviews, videos, our event calendar, and print publication, the Mohawk Valley Express. It's about timely local news for the community, keeping citizens informed about important issues, telling about the people who live and work here, and giving locally owned businesses the opportunity to reach a very targeted audience of locals and tourists alike. It's a whole new form of media-rich content developed specifically for today's mobile lifestyle and listeners. You can download our iOS app in the iTunes Store, listen to our country music streaming radio station, or sign up for a weekly newsletter. Stop by today at mybutterfalls.com. You'll be glad you did.
I love that tune. Anyways, we're back. We got about 10 minutes to go before puck drop of game 4, so we're going to get this segment in quick. First of all, we got to answer breakaway trivia. And I'll give you guys the question one more time. Real easy, quick question anyways. What year did the Boston Bruins come into the NHL? Who's got a guess?
Well, I hate this question because I know that they're original 6, but I also know that they all didn't come into the league at the same time.
Right.
Which also makes it like really interesting. So it has to be like, early 20th century at some point. I'm guessing.
Oh, way to narrow it down, Drew.
Before 1940, I guess. I don't know. I'll give me a 40-year window. I'll take it.
All right. Dave?
Jeez, I was going to say just off the top of my head 47, but it's probably 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Connor knows it. I can just see by the look on his face.
He better know it. He's jumping up and down in his seat.
He looks like Horseshack from Welcome Back, Connor. Mr. Connor! Mr. Connor!
1924.
Correct.
Whoa.
You, sir, are correct. It was 1924. As a matter of fact, I think they were the first United States-based team to come in. I think they were in before Chicago. They were in before New York. They were in before even Detroit, I believe. So... yeah, because obviously there's a whole long story behind it that we don't have time to get into, but it's interesting. Let's just say that.
Yes.
So, Connor, speaking of the Boston Bruins, some big news coming out of Boston. They have fired their coach. Coach Bruce Cassidy is gone after, I think he was there 6 seasons, compiling a 245 wins, 108 losses, and 46 overtime losses. So, I guess what happened?
Well, from everything that I've seen and what I know behind the scenes, when Cam Neely did his end of year presser, he kind of pushed it onto Don Sweeney when he was asked about the coaching staff. He kind of hemmed and hawed about it. And he said, that's Don's decision. He passed the buck, but he did not come out and say, Bruce Cassidy is our coach. We've made the playoffs every year under his tutelage. Bruce is our guy. He did not say that. So the offseason started. They had some meetings behind closed doors, and they gave Bruce Cassidy the control to fire one of his associate coaches, which he did, which led everybody to believe Bruce is coming back. Then they turn around and fire Bruce Cassidy. Well, here's something else that's really funny. Cam Neely said all of those things about the coach and had yet to give Don Sweeney his extension. The feeling behind the scenes is that Cam basically forced Sweeney's hand to fire Cassidy, or he was not going to be renewed as well, and they were going to get rid of the coach and general manager.
So in other words, like a crap rolls downhill kind of thing.
Blackmail.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And I will tell you, being in that market so heavily, Bruins fans are losing their minds right now. The general consensus is everybody wants Sweeney out and Cassidy to have stayed.
So I got a question for you. And it's, obviously, how rumors get flying around on Twitter, stuff like that. Yep. I was reading a couple weeks ago, this is before he was fired and all that perhaps the players weren't so happy with him anymore. Apparently there was there was some control issues. They were maybe a little heavy-handedness. Is there any truth to that at all that you know of, or is that 100%. Just, again, rumor mill?
100% confirmed that was the case behind closed doors. There's been some ex-NHLers who have come out in their own podcasts and voiced that players are disgruntled with the way that Cassidy handles things. David Backes himself has come out publicly and, talked poorly about Cassidy and how he handles the team. The feeling is David Krejci didn't retire, but didn't come back to the Bruins because of Bruce Cassidy. And while he was playing in Czechia, made a comment about how David Pastrnak spent most of the year on the second line, but while he was there, Bruce Cassidy never allowed it. And 100%, whether it'll be confirmed or not publicly, Jake DeBrusk's trade request was because of Bruce Cassidy.
Ooh. Ooh. Very interesting.
Bruce Cassidy was horrible to DeBrusk in his development, played him in awful scenarios, moved him around a ton, and rips him in the press constantly. Man. So that was a bridge that was not going to be repaired. And now Bruins Nation is all hot and bothered with, well, if we have to lose Cassidy, we're probably going to get Krejci back next year, potentially. And DeBrusk is most likely going to rescind his trade request, I would assume.
Wow. That's interesting to say the least. But here's the like in today's, not just the NHL, but I mean, all sports in general, you simply can't coach that hard-nosed old school all the time anymore. It just doesn't work. The world has moved past that.
Yeah, but you also can't be just like a player's coach, right?
Right, right. You got to find that medium.
You, at some point over time, and I mean, you can't argue with Cassidy's success, right? 6 years he's had amazing lineups. He always makes the playoffs, and he's gone through people. I mean, I would even say Rask, same thing, right? Up and down. But Cassidy's got to manage these guys, right? He's got to manage the egos. He's got to either be hard-nosed or a player's coach. Eventually, I think most coaches lose the room. And I've seen a ton here in Washington. Like, I love Bruce Boudreau. Loved him. But eventually, you just lose the room. And it may not be your superstars that are the ones that are complaining, right? Because they're probably having a go, right? Why not? They just show up at the rink, go out, skate. Sucks that you're losing, but you still have a go. And I think that Cassidy's time just kind of wore out. If I were a Bruins fan, Connor, I would be more concerned about who is coming in to replace Cassidy, right?
Yeah, to be honest with you, that doesn't matter right now. Because if Patrice Bergeron doesn't come back, if Bergeron doesn't come back, doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's going to be hard.
Going to go downhill.
Because they really don't have anybody in the system that's ready to come up. I mean, listen, Patrice Bergeron is not going to be replaced in one season. And I know they got like Jack Studnicka, who's an up-and-comer, but he's nowhere near ready to be a Patrice Bergeron or anything like that. But
because the two-way element of Bergeron's game is
there's no doubt.
Nearly irreplaceable.
No doubt.
No doubt. You hope they get somebody who's good at one side or the other. But Bergeron,
Right.
Yep.
So obviously, though, there are coaches available out there. What would you say to, I'll just come right out and say it, a Barry Trotz?
Barry Trotz, to me, it doesn't make sense. The only reason being is I know he wants to transition into the front office quite soon. He doesn't really want to coach that much longer. And I don't see that being a fit in Boston. I don't see an easy transition into their front office. So I really think he's going to go somewhere where he has a future in management.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Trotz was the biggest loss that I can remember for the Caps because he was so good. And it's not just him. It's like wherever he goes, you know who else comes with him? Mitch Korn, the best goaltending coach.
Here we go again.
Right? You get a full package. The problem with Barry, unfortunately, is that he's very good at hiring assistants, and they replace him. Like, it sucks. But, I thought that he would transition to the Caps front office. I think he's probably a better fit in Winnipeg. It's his home province. I think that's where he may end up. Maybe Philly. But I don't think he wants the media and all that. Like, I think Winnipeg's a good fit for Barry. I don't know if he's going to win a cup there, but he's going to have a decent run, move into the front office, and kind of be done with it.
You bring that up.
That way, go ahead.
Oh, I was like, speaking of Winnipeg, actually, Paul Maurice might be a pretty good fit in Boston. Known to be a player, the players loved him in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And coming off a situation where you have a locker room that did not like their old coach, it actually might do the Bruins a world of good to bring somebody like Maurice in to kind of calm the waters a little bit okay, let's, carte blanche, start all over again, and let's get back at it?
I think if I were to give you one name to watch, it's Rick Tocchet. The Bruins actually interviewed him last summer for a coaching position.
At least we wouldn't have to watch him on TV anymore.
Hey, listen, I liked him on TNT. I liked him on TNT. Come on.
I don't.
Nope.
No, I don't. I think that's interesting. It's weird because Tocchet's actually kind of a new name. I mean, he's been assistant in different places, and he has a decent body of work. But, I'm just sick of the same names being recycled all the time. Right?
Yeah,
one of the things about the Caps hiring Boudreau when they did was this guy was an up and comer. Like, yeah, he'd been around the AHL and he'd won the Calder Cup and these kind of things. But like, I look at these names of the people that they're talking about and how many vacancies do we have? Like a ton.
A lot.
Yeah, you got Vegas, Dallas, Philly. Like, you got a ton of places. Detroit. Like, people want to coach there, right? I mean, and just like the same names just coming up. Tocchet's interesting. I could see that being a fit in Boston, actually. It might be a nice, blending of coaching ability, coaching experience, and players, because you have a veteran group there that, again, like Connor said, are just going to be happy that it's not Bruce Cassidy. Yep. Who do you want to coach? Not Bruce Cassidy. And I mean, I didn't want Bruce coaching the Caps. That was his first gig. I'm like, who is this guy? He's like 25 years old.
Well, guys, I got to tell you something. It's 8:00 here in the East. So that means the Rangers and the Lightning are going to be coming on at any minute. So we're going to close out here. Connor, tell us one more time about Inside the Rink, where we can find them on social medias, everything.
Yeah, you can find us at InsideTheRink.com. You can find us on Facebook. Just search Inside the Rink. We have a wonderful full Facebook page. On Twitter, it's inside_the_rink. Everything we post, we have some funny memes that we post on there every now and again. We have a podcast network with about 7 shows and, of course, about 40 writers pumping out content every day. And if you really love us, you can download that wonderful app on your phone and see our lovely writing at ease.
Nice. Very nice. And I tell you, like I said, casual fan or just totally in love with the game, check out InsideTheRink.com because it's got something for everybody. Well, Connor, thank you for taking the time to come on the show. We really appreciate it. And you will have to come back on and do an award show with us or something because this is just too much fun.
Absolutely. Anytime. I would love to come on. You guys are great. And thank you for having me again.
All right, man. Sounds good. Thanks a million. Appreciate it. All right, everybody. That was Connor Green from InsideTheRink.com. And we are going to close out because I want to go watch some hockey. I know Drew wants to go watch some hockey. Dave's going to watch the first period. So,
so bad.
For Connor Green, for Drew Bray, for Dave the Save Warner, I'm Scott Kimball. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week on Marty's Illegal Stick Hockey Podcast.
Dave, you were hardly on.